You know, at its height, it was one of the most important studios in Hollywood, and within a couple of years, it pretty well got destroyed due to, not say mismanagement, but just bad luck, bad economic factors, and bad decisions. Now today, we're the first of a two-part series. We're going to talk about the early life and mid-1980s success of Orion Pictures. Now, currently, Orion Pictures is an American motion picture producer owned by MGM. Now, in its original operating period, the company produced and released films from 1978 until 1999, and was also involved in television production and syndication throughout the 80s and early 90s. It was formed in 1978 as a joint venture between Warner Brothers and three former senior executives at United Artists. During this early period, Orion was considered a mini-major studio. If a major studio is 9 to 10, it's like a 6. Now, such great directors and writers as Woody Allen, James Cameron, Jonathan Demme, Oliver Stone, and several other prominent Hollywood creators worked with Orion during its most successful years from 1978 to 1992. Of the films distributed by Orion, 4 won Academy Awards for Best Picture. Amadeus in 1984, Platoon in 1986, Dances with Wolves in 1990, and The Silence of the Lambs in 1991. Now, 2 other Orion films, the Woody Allen comedy Hannah and Her Sisters, and the Gene Hackman vehicle Mississippi Burning, 1986 and 1988 respectively, were nominated for that same category. Now, since 1997, Orion has been owned by MGM. In 2013, MGM revived the Orion name for television. A year later, Orion Pictures was relaunched by the studio. Now, in January 1978, 3 executives of Transamerica, which owned United Artists, Arthur B. Krim, Eric Pleskow, and Robert S. Benjamin, quit their jobs. Krim and Benjamin had headed UA since 1951 and subsequently turned around the then failing studio with a number of critical and commercial successes. Change had begun once Transamerica purchased UA in 1967, and within a decade, a rift formed between Krim and Transamerica, the chairman John R. Beckett, concerning the studio's operations. Now, Krim had suggested spinning off United Artists into a separate company, which was rejected by Beckett. The last straw came from Pleskow when he refused to collect and deliver the medical records of UA department heads to Transamerica's offices in San Francisco for the sake of confidentiality. The tensions only worsened when Fortune magazine reported an article on a clash between UA and TA, in which Beckett had stated that if the executives disliked the parent's company treatment of them, they should resign. Krim, Benjamin, and Pleskow eventually quit UA on January 13, 1978, followed by the exits of senior vice presidents William Bernstein and Mike Medavoy 3 days later. Now, the week following the resignations, according to the website Reference for Business, 63 important Hollywood figures took out an advertisement in a trade paper warning UA that it made a fatal mistake in letting the 5 men leave. The fatal mistake came true following the box office disaster of their Heaven's Gate movie, in which lost the studio buckets of money. Now, in 1980, it led to Transamerica selling UA to MGM. Now, in February 1978, the 5 men forged a deal with Warner Brothers. The executives formed Orion Pictures Company, named after a constellation which they claim had 5 main stars. It actually had 7 or 8. The new company intended only to finance projects, giving the filmmakers complete creative autonomy. This ideal had been successfully implemented at United Artists. Now, Orion started with a $100 million line of credit, and its films would be distributed by Warner Brothers. Orion, however, was contractually given free rein over distribution and advertising, as well as a number of type of films the executive chose to invest in. Now, Orion, what he called the presentation of the Orion logo, became very prominent very fast. Now, in late March 1978, it signed its first contract, a 2-picture deal with John Travolta's production company. The contracts with actress and director Barbra Streisand, James Caan, Jane Fonda, Peter Sellers, John Voight, and Burt Reynolds, directors Francis Ford Coppola and Blake Edwards, writer-director John Milius, who was also kind of a casting showrunner. Singer Peter Frampton and producer Ray Stark soon materialized. Orion also developed a co-financing and distribution deal with EMI Films. In his first year, Orion had 15 films in production and had a dozen more actors, directors, and producers lining up to sign with them. Now, unfortunately, in 1979, Benjamin died. Orion's first film, the Oscar winner A Little Romance with Diane Lane and Laurence Olivier, was released in April that year. Later that year, Orion released Blake Edwards 10, which became a commercial success. The first for Edwards in over a decade, beside the installments of the Pink Panther franchise. Other films released by Orion over the next 2 years, including a few successes such as Caddyshack and Arthur, critically praised but underperforming films like The Great Santini, Robert Duvall movie, adaptation of the Pat Conroy novel and Sidney Lumet's Prince of the City, and pictures by young writer-directors such as Philip Kaufman, The Wanderers, and Nicholas Meyer's debut, the very critically acclaimed Time After Time. Now, they also did Monty Python's Life of Brian, which Orion only distributed in the United States. Out of the 23 films Orion released between April 79 and December 81, only a third of them made a profit. Orion executives were conflicted over financing big-budget films and also passed, big mistake, on the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie in 81 for that reason. Now, by early 82, Orion had severed its distribution ties with Warner. As part of the deal, the rights to Orion's films made up to that point were sold to Warner. Orion was now looking to have its own distribution network by acquiring another company with such capabilities. The four partners looked into Allied Artists and Embassy Pictures before settling on Filmways. Orion subsequently purchased Filmways and reorganized the flailing company. New employees were hired, and all of Filmways' non-entertainment assets, Grosel and Dunlop and Broadcast Electronics, were sold off. Now, another result of the merger was that Orion entered television productions. Now, this included the great hit Cagney and Lacey, which actually had a TV movie start and lasted 7 seasons on CBS. Now, in 83, Orion Pictures introduced art house division Orion Classics with executives who had previously run United Artists Classics. Now, according to Reference for Business, of the first 18 movies the company had released as Orion Pictures, 10 had been profitable, 5 had broken even, and 3 had losses of less than $2 million. So, not too bad. Now, one such film, Francis Ford Coppola's The Cotton Club, was mired in legal troubles and Orion lost $3 million of his investment. We've had some singles and doubles, but haven't had any home runs, lamented Krim. In September 84, Orion distributed Amadeus, which garnered many accolades, winning 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Now, for Orion, the big problem was 1985. It was a dismal year. All but 2 films, including the Madonna movie Desperately Seeking Susan and Code of Silence, made less than $10 million in the United States box office, including an unsuccessful attempt at a James Bond-type franchise called Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins. Very good movie, but not enough to make a good sequel. Now, Orion's haphazard distribution channels and unsuccessful advertising campaigns made it impossible to achieve a hit. Another factor was that Orion was about to venture into the video business and stop selling off home use rights to his films. Furthermore, production of the Rodney Dangerfield comedy Back to School was put on hold when, unfortunately, a co-producer died, taking the film off its Christmas 85 release slate. Now, that movie made heavy money, but they needed that extra revenue in 85, but it was just unfortunate because it's easy money. It literally was easy money just a few months before. Now, here's where the crossover comes. In January 86, Mario Kassar and Andrew Vajana, producers of the Rambo films, including First Blood, which was distributed by Orion, attempted to buy $55 million worth of the studio stock through the duo's company and a basis. Had they succeeded, Kassar and Vagina would have controlled the board and laid off every executive save for Krim. Now, Warburg Pincus subsequently limited its 20% stake in Orion to 5%. The remaining stock was acquired by Viacom International. Now, Viacom hoped to use Orion's product for its paid TV channel Showtime, and Orion expanded into home video distribution with the formation of Orion Home Entertainment Corporation. So this is part one of a two-part podcast on Orion. You could see exactly where they were going wrong, and you're going to see in the second part how quickly a successful distribution and production studio can go bankrupt with one bad decision. Stay tuned for part two. We'll be back.